Myself, Mrs. Sampada Lohgavkar, working as a scientific assistant in this department. Welcome all of you on the occasion of National Science Day in this air pollution section. Starting from this first instrument, this is a microwave digester. This we are using for digestion of samples of TSPM, PM2.5 and PM10, that is total suspended particulate matter samples. We have network of 11 BACMON stations across the length and breadth of the country. BACMON is nothing but Background Air Pollution Monitoring Network. All these 11 stations are situated in different environmental circumstances. And choosing of these stations in different environmental circumstances is nothing but to have a variety of data. At all these stations we have installed precipitation collectors. And on daily basis we are collecting rainwater samples at all these stations. After collecting the rainwater sample, at the end of every month we are getting rainwater samples from all these stations by post. When we receive the sample, we filter it through Whatman filter paper, then we measure pH and conductivity, and then we go for chemical analysis. For chemical analysis, we have two analytical techniques. One is ion chromatography and other is atomic absorption spectrophotometer. This is ion chromatograph. Sometimes it is called as ion exchange chromatograph. Here we have two phases. One is solid phase and another is liquid phase. And depending upon the partition coefficient of every ion, ions are separated in the column itself and then they are detected by the conductivity detector. Simultaneously, we get a chromatogram on the screen for anions as well as cations within 35 minutes. We have one more advantage, that is autosampler. With this autosampler, we can do 100 to 150 samples at a time. Then let us go to atomic absorption spectrophotometer. This is another technique called as atomic absorption spectrophotometer. The principle is very simple. It is based on Lambert's-Beer's law, that is absorbance is directly proportional to concentration. A is directly proportional to C and B is proportionality constant. We can only do elemental analysis with the help of AAS. We can do sodium, potassium, magnesium and calcium. Here we get a flame with the help of acetylene and oxygen gas, which creates a very high temperature. Due to high temperature, our liquid sample is converted into cloud of fine droplets. And then we have several lamps for several elements. The particular lamp will emit the light of specific wavelength so that only that particular element will go to excited state by absorbing some energy, which is measured electronically with the help of photomultiplier tube. If the concentration is more, absorbance will be more. That is a very simple principle. And here we cannot do compound ions or even anions we cannot do with the help of AAS. Then apart from this is our routine laboratory workout. Then apart from this we have one more project that is called as laboratory intercomparison study. In a year, after every 6 months, we get 3 acid rain samples from WMO laboratory which have already been analyzed at WMO lab at USA. And then we analyze these samples for all the 10 parameters in our lab, and then we cross-verify the results which have been published at WMO website. And I am happy to tell you that so far we have been successful to carry out this laboratory intercomparison study, and we are getting our values in good range or sometimes in satisfactory range. This study is carried out to check the performance of the instrument as well as status of the laboratory. This was the present status of our laboratory. In future plan includes analysis of TSPM, that is total suspended particulate matter. For this project, we have purchased high volume air sampler at 4 stations in India, at Delhi, Rani Chauri, Varanasi and Pune. And in future, we will be analyzing PM 2.5 and PM 10 and also TSPM papers. This is our small contribution towards environmental measurement of environmental pollution, and whatever the data we are creating, we are supplying it to WMO data center at USA, and aim of all these studies is to make better environment for all.
You are welcome to Seismological Unit, Pune. So this is the Seismological Unit. We are going to visit and we are seeing Seismo is a Greek word, that is movement of earth or sudden movement takes place in the earth, that is earthquake. And seismology is the study of earthquake. So you see here, generally it is divided in 3 parts, that is the seismometer, which is measure sensitive part of the earth movement. Seismograph. Graph is the instrument. Graph is the instrument which records the earthquake. And seismogram is the actual record where we will get the actual record of the earthquake. Here you can see this instrument, this system, WWSMN, is divided in 2 parts. That is, one is short period instrument, that is a long period instrument. Long period instrument record distance shock very well as having their high magnification, and here magnification is 50,000 times. It is called short period instrument. Again, here 3 components are divided. First is Z component, this is north south, east west. So based on this, you can see short period instrument, Z component, up and down motion of the earth, that is tectonic plate. Second, north south, and third one is east west. What happens as soon as earthquake occurs? What happens? Huge amount of energy gets released. It gets converted into waveform. That is primary wave and secondary wave. These are body waves. Being primary wave, the faster traveling, is reaches station first. So our main thing is that to record primary and secondary wave. Based on primary and secondary wave, we can find out the distance, at what distance the earthquake has occurred. So our first thing is to analyze primary and secondary wave. Based on that, we can find out distance, at what distance the earthquake has occurred. Now we can see as soon as the earthquake recorded on the chart. So this is the best example I will say. You can see here, as we have seen earlier, this same paper was loaded on the instrument, and this is the actual record we can see here. So same chart is displayed. This is your minute mark. You can see. This is your minute mark. After 1 minute, which will appear on the chart. That tells us to find out the timing of the shock and what time the earthquake has occurred or started. So in this case, you can see first change you observe, it is here. So this is your primary wave. So first note the time of primary wave. Again, second major change you observe, it is here. So note the time of secondary wave, so second major change. From that time difference, you can find out the distance, at what distance the earthquake has occurred. Now, this table is prepared with the help of travel time curve table. So based on that, from time difference, you can find out the distance, at what distance the earthquake has occurred. In this case, time difference of 16-17 seconds. So you can say from Pune, at a distance of 170 km, one earthquake is occurred. So, same earthquake, you can see here, same earthquake is recorded here. This is your primary wave. Note the time of primary wave, note the time of secondary wave. From that time difference, you can find out the distance, at what distance the earthquake has occurred. As soon as we receive the distance, all the data is sent to Delhi. This is the earlier method I am telling you. Nowadays, everything is computerized. Data get directly transmitted to Delhi and has to find out the epicenter. Now, how to find out the epicenter of an earthquake? See the triangulation method, locating epicenter of an earthquake. As the name suggests, triangulation minimum 3 station data is required. Now take an example of Bhuj earthquake, which felt in Gujarat in January 26. You can see as soon as the earthquake occurred at Bhuj, what will happen? All wave is travel in all directions, that is your primary wave, secondary wave, and all these waves will be recorded by all the stations, all in India. We have taken major seismic stations, they are Mumbai, Delhi, Calcutta and Chennai, Pune. These are the major stations we have taken. As soon as first wave release, it will reach Mumbai first, primary wave. Then after traveling, it will come to Pune and then Chennai. Same way will travel up to Delhi, Calcutta. Each station they will record primary wave. Again secondary wave which will get released, it is also recorded by all the stations. So what they will do, Mumbai will find out the distance with the help of primary and secondary wave. From that, Mumbai will find out the distance, at what distance the earthquake has occurred. Now, Mumbai get distance of 500 km, Pune will get distance of 600 km. Based on primary and secondary wave, Delhi get distance of 1000 km and Calcutta will get distance of 2000 km. In this way, all stations they will record the earthquake and send their data to Delhi. Delhi as a headquarters. They are authorized to find out the epicenter and after the data is given to press public media. Now what Delhi will do, he will take one map which having scale 100 km equal to 1 centimeter. In this scale, if the map is prepared, 1 centimeter equal to 100 km. In this scale, map is prepared. Now Mumbai get distance of 500 km. So after converting in map scale, Mumbai will be having 5 centimeter. Delhi will get distance of 10 centimeter, Chennai 15, Calcutta 15 and Chennai 20 centimeter. So taking Mumbai as a center, radius of 5 centimeter, we will draw one circle. Delhi get distance of 1000 km. So on map, it will be 10 centimeter. So taking Delhi as a center, radius of 10 centimeter, we will draw another circle. They will intersect in 2 points. Now Chennai get distance of 20 centimeter, 2000 km means 20 centimeter. So taking Chennai as a center, radius of 20 centimeter, we will draw third circle. In this way, all circles will intersect in 1 point and that is the epicenter of the shock. So in this way, epicenter of the shock is calculated. But epicenter of the shock is the point just upon the earth's surface. That is called epicenter. And focus is the point where shock gets originated. Just below the earth's surface, that is called focus or foci. It is the foci of the earthquake, where earthquake gets originated. Now, third point comes, you can see, we will come to our magnitude. Generally, people get confused. They are having some doubts related to what is the magnitude and what is the intensity. Intensity and magnitude, they are different factors. So I will give a simple example. Magnitude and intensity. How to identify? Take an example of, suppose the bulb of 500 watt is put on here. The person standing very close to it will feel very hot. If the person standing just away from that bulb, he will not feel that much of hot. But he will not say bulb is of 50 watt. He will say bulb is of 500 watt only. So 500 watt is the magnitude of bulb. Intensity changes with the distance, magnitude remains the same. And we are calculating magnitude of an earthquake. How much of energy gets released during earthquake? Now, it is the best example you can see here. Earlier we have seen, this is of Koyna region earthquake of Maharashtra zone, that is Satara district. And this is also same earthquake. So, this is Koyna earthquake, this is also Koyna earthquake. So from that pattern, immediately you can identify which one is bigger. So in this case, you can see the amplitude of the earthquake is less, here it is more. Again the signal duration up to which the signals are recorded, that we can see it is up to hardly about you can say 80-90 millimeter, and in this case more than 15 minutes. So this is a bigger one earthquake, you can say. So this is the one simple method to find out the magnitude of the earthquake with the help of signal duration. That is called MD. The main method is called, generally what we say Richter scale. Richter is the name of the scientist who found out this method. That is how much of energy gets released during earthquake. This is a very simple table you can see. 3 lines you can observe here. So this is your distance line, as we have seen earlier, that how distance is calculated. Again you can see amplitude line here, measure the amplitude, this is your amplitude line. Now scale is designed in such a way, if your amplitude is less, just mark it here, that is 1 millimeter you are getting, and second distance, just corresponding match each other. Where this line will cut, that is your magnitude of an earthquake. That is the amount of energy get released. If the magnitude, amplitude is more and distance is less, naturally again you will get the same magnitude of the earthquake. So this is the Richter scale who generally find out the calculation of magnitude, the amount of energy get evolved during earthquake. Generally, common people and all people generally ask, what about the forecast? Whether forecast is possible or not. But it is in world right now, nobody can predict the earthquake with date, time, place and magnitude. On this date and this place, of this amount of magnitude of earthquake energy get released, that earthquake will occur, nobody can predict because we cannot see inside the earth what is happening inside. As far as weather is concerned, we can try and we give the prediction, but here in this earthquake it is very impossible to give with date, time, place and magnitude. So then generally people ask, what is the use if we are unable to give actual forecast? So based on last few years data, based on that, we can find out the seismic zones. What are the seismic zones that we have designed? Nowadays 4 seismic zones are there, and that seismic zones are used for many purposes, construction of dams, then up to finance also. This data is utilized everywhere. And generally second, this data is utilized for next future forecast, whether we can give. Based on that data, forecast may be possible. So this is the functioning of seismology. Generally, we have covered this one.
Welcome to Meteorological Training Institute, Office of Climate Research and Services, India Meteorological Department. Meteorological Training Institute is the main center for the capacity development in the field of operational weather and climate services of the personnel of India Meteorological Department, of the personnel of other Government of India Department, of the personnel from National Meteorological Services in the neighboring countries of Afro-Asian and Pacific region. Now, by seeing the activities and capabilities of this establishment of IMD, World Meteorological Organizations long back in 80s recognized the training activities at MTI, that time it was known as Training Division only, as a WMO Regional Meteorological Training Center. Presently it is known as WMO Training Center. This training center caters capacity development of those personnel in the field of general meteorology, means operational weather and climate services, including aviation, non-aviation both, and the agricultural meteorological services. And similarly, we are also having training services at Delhi. They caters for instrument, meteorological instrument, communication and information system. Now, being regional training center, this training center has certain international and national commitment. As international commitment, we are supposed to develop and build the capacity in the field of those disciplines which I have already mentioned, of the personnel in the National Meteorological Services of the neighboring countries, in Afro-Asian and Pacific regions, and similar capacity development for the India Meteorological Department's own persons and other departments, namely Indian Navy, Indian Coast Guard, etc. Now, to fulfill this commitment throughout the year, this training division conducts some long-term training courses, duration of which ranges from 4 months to 12 months. Besides that, to keep pace with the latest knowledge and technology in the relevant field of the meteorological personnel, Meteorological Training Institute also designs and conducts short-term, customized, tailor-made courses on different modules like tropical cyclones, heat wave, western disturbances, monsoons, etc.
So the objective of MTI is to train the IMD personnel and the overseas personnel which are involved with the National Meteorology and Hydrology Services to build the capacity in them. We train the trainees across varied disciplines like agriculture meteorology, hydrological meteorology and telecommunication and related services as per their requirements. And there are various courses in which they are trained, like there are long-term courses and short-term courses, and there are other tailor-made programs also available as per the requirements. So far we have trained a total of 16,984 IMD trainees and a total of 301 foreign trainees across which are from 37 countries which fall across the Afro-Asian Pacific region.
This office library was set up around 1928 and is one of the two central libraries of IMD. It contains books, journals and publications in the field of atmospheric sciences and allied sciences. Library has a special collection of departmental publications as well as old journals. It caters to the research scientists from other institutes as well as students from related disciplines.